So, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, Good morning. This morning we will be reviewing The Black Woman is God. So, I'm going to put it on. Y'all can just put your comments in the comments, or you can easily just inbox me if anything. But thank you so much for taking out the time and being so patient with me.
The female body, on a worldwide consideration, retains the characteristics of youth much longer than does the male body. You getting the picture? Less or fewer women have hardening of the arteries than men, the incidence of ulcers in men, and again, most of the deterioration and the signs of age show less in the female body than they do in the male body. Told you I was going to prove a point. There's more heart failure and apoplexy in men than there is in women. Women can usually hold their breath without deterioration of cell structure deprived of oxygen, and much more less suffocated than men. And women can usually endure cold weather on a general basis better than men and can adjust to heat temperatures when their thermostat works correctly more so than men. Are you beginning to see the picture of the proof of what my opening statement was? How many of you are still with me? Confusion and puzzlement. Oh, good. Women in general at higher altitudes, like in the Andes Mountains and so, can usually carry heavier loads than men because the muscle fiber is toned better, and the amount of oxygen within the cell structures is greater than that of men. The female brain not only has a finer texture and more complex organization than that of the male, but relative to overall body weight, it is 1/4 pound heavier. There are fewer female baby miscarriages than there are male baby miscarriages. And during childhood, the female is mentally superior to male because the girl of 7, usually because of the rich thyroid hormones, has a brain capacity and a body capacity that dwarfs a boy in both mind and body. They're usually taller, more symmetric, and have better brain cohesion and function than does.
Now, for me, one of the most craziest parts, I'm not gonna lie, like for me, you know, one of the most craziest things, like when I first heard about all this information, for me, one of the craziest things was that early on in life, you know, women are, you know, more superior to men growing up. But the funny thing is that that's only for the beginning of life. And it's kind of like strange to me because we're taught the man is the strongest, man this, man that, it's a man's world. And to me, I just found it really ironic that, you know, the story could be told in reverse. Like, just imagine that you were living this story where you thought white was good and black was bad, or black was good and white was bad, just to see that, damn, they really lied. Like, I mean, I think to me that's just the most, interesting part. The fact that the fact that no, when does it come on? It do. How can I hide it? Wow. I guess I can't. Alrighty. Ooh, that boy look good now. That about right. Yeah, that about right. Like I say that. All right, so let's back on to the show. Um. Okay, back to this. All right, back to the show. Come on.
The boy. So now you understand that I have hopefully proven to you my opening statement. Is there anybody now that disagrees with anything that I said? I didn't think you women would. And I know the fellas that just said, what in the world is going on with that nut up there? Bear with me. Okay? Menstruating women in general lose calcium, thyroxine, iodine, phosphorus, lecithin, vitamin E, vitamin B1, 6, 12, 2, 6, magnesium, manganese, iron, copper, zinc, and sometimes for some women this starts 2 weeks prior to the menses. It's Think about that. Calcium, for instance, stabilizes the nervous system. Phosphorus is found in all healthy, normal cells. Iodine causes the growth and maintenance of the thyroid gland, and this is why the thyroid gland in women tends to swell during menstruation. I give you another key, so you don't run off and spend all your money at the doctor's.
Listen.
I repeat that. That's why the thyroid gland in women tends to swell during menstruation. Science has proven that the birth of congenital idiots increases when one travels inland where the soil and the food lacks iodine. Iodine is also an essential element for the maturation and maintenance of healthy female cells. What is very interesting is that not all women on this planet menstruate. Also, not all women on this planet have ever menstruated. But all women think that all women do.
Now, that was one of the biggest blows for me. I'm not going to even lie, because when he said that, for me, you know, it hit somewhere like real below the belt, because I felt like, you know, to me, I felt like we learned a lot of things in life, but I feel like a lot of things was pushed on us that we actually didn't really even need for life. And I feel like these kind of things are, you know, the things that we need to know for life. You understand? Then rather just, you know, us learning things that may, you know, hold us for 20 years or maybe 30 years. This right here can hold you a whole lifetime. You know, I wish I had the chance when I was young to measure what I learned and put all the things that I had to use for 10, 20 years all the way in the background. All the things that I had to use for like 50 years. I wish I would have put those shits at the forefront, literally, because a lot of things that you learn in life, you realize like it's just bullshit. You know, not to say that, you know, learning things is bullshit, but the fact that a lot of things that you use in life, you're just not going to need for life. I mean, a lot of things that you learn in life, you're just not going to need for life. And, you know, for me, I think that's one of the biggest things, you know, learning that. I mean, seeing that as a, you know, real life perspective. I mean, it's real. It's realer than you can ever imagine. But for me, I think at this point in my life, you know, it's just to learn and, you know, become a better individual. You know, I think every day is a different mission. Every day is a new task or um, something that you can learn or something that you could be about, you know. And I think that it's just very beautiful for me, you know, to teach people that life is not supposed to be lived dangerously. You know, I think that we have this notion in life because of all these movies and nonsense that life is a risk. Life is risk if you make it risk. So I think that I want to bring this more to the forefront with, you know, my books and, you know, my YouTube channel, because it's a beautiful thing living life, you know, in relaxation. Basically, that's what I call it. Like, it's really a beautiful thing. It really is. But we're gonna get back to this.
Let me also spend a little time with that concept.
This is the name, though, if anybody needed it.
Hindu women
That's the
do
name of the
not
video, okay?
and definitely did not menstruate. One of the last famous Hindu women to achieve prominence on the world stage was
Did you hear that part, though?
most Hindu women do not and definitely did not menstruate.
That part.
One of the last famous Hindu women to achieve prominence on the world stage was Indira Gandhi, who until she started doing certain things and making certain practices as she toured the world, readily admitted she had not suffered a menstrual period, until she began to do these things. Had she would follow her religious undertakings, maybe it never would have started. Most ancient African or Kemetic women did not menstruate.
Rewind that back real quick. Listen to that real quick.
Most ancient African or Kemetic women did not menstruate.
Yeah, all of that.
Not Belkis,
take all that in.
Not Apatia, not any of the so-called queens of Africa seemingly did.
None of them.
Once they began to have knowledge of self.
None of them.
The oracle of the Delphi, according to the Greeks, were a group of women who pontificated and led Greece through its heyday. It was not led by the warrior men. They did the fighting. The thinking was done by the oracles, and many of the oracles were females. They are said that the oracles...
Let me just put this into perspective. We're talking about millions of years ago. You understand? That's why I hate when, black people beat on their chest about slavery. Oh, slavery, talking about slavery all day. Because you got to understand, first of all, we was taken into slavery for a reason. That's first off. Just put that on the table. Don't think that we were some innocent black people in a little village minding our business. Stop it. Don't think that. We were full of power. They seen the power we had, and we had to be conquered. We were the niggas in the village. That's just like, nigga, when you go to the school, remember when you was young? I'm talking about the kids that weren't in the in crowd. All the kids that weren't in the in crowd, they all felt in their mind some way, somehow, just a tiny little bit, like the crowd that was in, all the popular kids, pretty much had to be conquered. And not even in a bad way, but just pretty much, damn, I want to be like y'all, or I want to have what y'all have. You understand? You got to realize this is a real thought process normally for people. Not saying it's evil, it's just natural. Just like if you see a guy in a Bentley, you naturally want to have that life. You don't say, oh shit, I'm going to kill him for it though. You don't think that naturally, but you think naturally, oh shit, I would love to have his life. Why not? Like no one looks at someone in a Lamborghini and says, that looks boring. That's a boring life. No one says that. And when you do, 9 times out of 10, you come off sounding like a hater or miserable. Literally. Because that's how we're coded in life to see if we see someone with a better lifestyle or just better things with us, we naturally say, wow, that's a good life. We naturally sit it in our heart. Naturally. That's just naturally who we are genetically made to be. Literally. So the point is that when you realize that white people didn't come to Africa thinking, oh, you know what? We should go talk to them and see how, they could give us, cheat codes to the game, basically. You understand? They didn't come into Africa like that. They came into Africa saying, you know what? These guys have all the power. These guys have it all. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to take what they have. That's simple. By any means necessary. So you got to realize, the conversation that you're interpreting. I think a lot of people like to have conversations, but they don't actually interpret their actual conversation. Like when you're having a conversation, are you actually thinking about the conversation, or are you just arguing what you think you have learned so far yet of information for the conversation? Literally. And that's why I became a better teacher and more so a better learner. Better yet, I became a better learner by understanding that you have to understand, or better yet, understand what you're interpreting. Like if we're having a debate, You need to fully understand what we're debating about, and more importantly, what the debate is truly leading to. Like what point are we trying to prove, or what point are we going to? Because if we're arguing, we're not on the same page. So if we're debating, basically arguing, we're trying to get to the same page. You're trying to prove me wrong, I'm trying to prove you wrong. But in that process, what are we doing? Where are we going? That's the point. That's why I became almost godlike in terms of debating, because I understood that actuality, that reality of life. Because it's just not about having a hostile conversation. It's not about, tempers rising and, oh, I'm getting my point over you, you're getting your point over me. It's not about that. The point is, when you're in a situation with a person, we're trying to get the best out of each other. You're trying to prove me wrong because you're trying to get the best out of you. I'm trying to prove you wrong so you can see the best in me.
Did not menstruate. We hear a lot of talk about the Amazon women, the Teutonic women, the female Gauls, the West African Watetas, the East African Bossamans, the Andambes of the Congo. Most of these oceanic women and most of these Kemetic women did not menstruate. These women were the strong women of our history. And in many cases, they could grow to be 7 and 8 feet tall. That's why amongst the Watusi and the Watusi women, when they told you of their diets and things that used to be different, they have some of the most tall, or the tallest women and persons, in fact, on earth itself. The Old Testament said, and the ancient Hebrews said, that menstruation was unclean, and that a woman should be confined until cleansed of her issue. But understand again, a lot of that book was tampered with by a patriarchal society, and if you're not aware of that, I think most of you should be, then we have a lot of interaction that we could go through. With the advent of mahogany, and now I'm thinking about Africa, monogamy, by what we would call the Christian forefathers who wanted their church to really flourish, came the taught, learned sensation that menstruation was correct, menstruation was necessary, and was the woman's paying for her sins for having made Adam eat the apple, and now must also bear her child in pain and affliction. And many of you bought that, didn't you? I state to you that menstruation is not a cleansing process. It is only the result of the deterioration of the egg, unfertilized, and that men have perpetuated a myth that women collectively have bought. And I can at least begin to forgive some African Kemetic women because they didn't have too much of a choice. In their old habitats, in their old lands, many of them, as I say, were taught better. I'm going to now talk to you as adults, if I already haven't, and I hope again you will accept these things with an adult mind, and then on the Q&A, talk to me, question me if you will. The whites is a street slang for a term called leukorrhea. It is an issue, a secretion from the vaginal area, which women sometimes suffer from. If the womb becomes catarrhal, has mucus, has a cold, the whites is one of the results. The inflammation of the uterine lining produces, in many cases, menstruation, and many things can cause that, as we shall talk about. The fluids lost in leukorrhea, or colloquial on the street, the whites, are important vital substances. lipoids, alkaline lactates, natural sodium, potassium, calcium, plus brain and nerve foods in the form of lecithin. In fact, the mucous corpuscles present in leukorrhea are presently hemoglobin capable. What do I mean by that? It means that they are capable of forming human blood carrying, oxygenating corpuscles. So not only does a woman then suffer the menses, but if she also has leukorrhea, she is constantly losing the ability to build life-giving blood cells, which anyone knows without that, the body does what? Deteriorates. Some women are on a constant menses. And then you wonder why some women are very irritable, very agitative, anemic. They get dizzy and have migraine headaches and jump at the sound of a firecracker 20 miles away, which they think they can hear. If anyone suffered that kind of loss from puberty till death, I wonder again why women are not half crazy. There are some men and other women that say they are. I didn't say it. I say, faced with that loss, we could have a problem. I state that if the menses was cessated, if it stopped, if the blood loss and even the alkaline lactate loss was ceased and stopped, then not only would women be very strong, and they wouldn't be intuitive, they would be psychic, but they also could give birth to babies without a man being anywhere around.
Rewind that back.
And there is strong, and they wouldn't be intuitive, they would be psychic, but they also could give birth to babies without a man being anywhere around.
One more time. One more time. One more time.
If
You're
it
not
stopped,
listening.
we could have a problem. I state that if the menses was cessated, if it stopped, if the blood loss and even the alkaline lactate loss was ceased and stopped, then not only would women be very strong, and they wouldn't be intuitive, they would be psychic, but they also could give birth to babies without a man being anywhere around.
Heard you.
And there is the key to your problem and your problematic solution. You bought into the coat lie, the white coat lie, the medical doctor's lie, which came about under a patriarchal system. If you start understanding the cadavers that were messed with in England and France at the turn of the 17th, 18th century, and experimentation still goes on. In fact, they, by law, are given under the caduceus the right to practice. And the practice is upon, in many cases, you as females.
Let me just put on the table. I've been telling women this for years. Because I feel like women have to really carry themselves in a certain light because you're just different. You're genetically different. You're not a man. You're just genetically different. This right here proves my fucking point. What I've been saying for years. And I'm all about fact. I'm gonna clip this. Hopefully y'all clip it. Play it 100 times. Send it to your grandmother. Send it to your aunt. Your little sister most of all. Please send it to all the young girls. Please, all the girls 21 and younger. Clip it and send it around. You need to know how special you are. The world has made it to a point where you could just look at yourself as a toy. You ain't no toy. No black woman on this planet is a toy, a product, anything of that nature. There are none to be played with. And the fact that women just run around. Hold on, this is another point. This is another point. This whole ghetto gagger shit. This ghetto gagger shit got me really mad because I'm not gonna lie. I'm just be straight up with y'all. I don't care about the white men doing it because that's what they want to do. I'm mad at the fact that black women want to argue for them, but more importantly, they're getting mad at black niggas for checking them. Black women are actually getting mad at black men for trying to check white men and more importantly, checking them. Think about that. You doing something to disgrace our race and you mad that I'm mad at you. That's the world of black women that we live in. This is why this video is so fundamental. This video is so important. And I want so many people just to clip this shit, throw it around, send it around. Everybody, please just clip it. Because it makes no sense where we at in terms of black women. What we represent. Like, for me, I just want to know, what are we doing? Like, if this is the future for black women, right? All of black women that are not doing this, what are we doing? Like, say that this is not your lifestyle, because I'm not going to sit here and say this is 100% black women. I'm not going to say that. But the fact is, the other percentage of women that are not doing this, living this lifestyle, what are y'all doing? What are y'all saying? I've seen so many women, ignore this about the whole grandmother and granddaughter situation with the ghetto gaggers. For me, it's just a little upsetting because I see all these women talk about all these other situations, but when this came upon us, shh, 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 shh. And for me, that's heartbreaking because this is what needs to be talked about. This is why we in this position, technically, because of actions like this, energy like this. We don't want to talk about that. And that's the most hurtful part. But let's get right back to it.
There was a theory called the August theory, spelled O-V-I-S-T, pronounced Ah. It was proven, not postulated, I repeat, proven by Professor Jacques Loeb of Stanford University that the embryo develops from the egg alone and does not require spermatozoon. Did you hear what I just stated? According to Professor Loeb, you can make a developing embryo to become mitigated and go into first, second, and third trimesters of birth without the need of the male sperm under certain circumstances. The prevailing medical theory is one of epigenesis, and it says again that you must have the union of sperm and egg in order to produce and in order to get pregnant. Maybe. To start this and give it practicality, we have to go back to a basic concept that some people still are not sure about. I state that women had to have been created before men or formed before man, because you cannot get a man from a man. You cannot get a woman from a man.
Listen to this part.
But you can get a man from a woman, and you can get a woman from a woman, and think about that. Any problem with that statement, that compound complex sentence? I don't have one.
I'm just trying out the few things. This is my first
This
video.
is what the old church, the Church of England, and under King Constantine and the Bishop Eusebius, the Church of Rome, had to get rid of. and had to change. The last honesty amongst Caucasian.
I'm going to cut it off around like 25, 30 minutes. But the good thing about this is what I'm going to do is that I will fortunately okay, I'm going to find a way to put the link in the description, and y'all can definitely watch the full video, or I already gave y'all the full title in the video. Y'all can definitely just go watch the full video whenever y'all get a chance. This video is very, very helpful though, to your spirit. You look at life totally different after this video. And this is why I love this video. This is why I will always come back to this video, because it just means so much to me, and it means a lot to life. I think in the whole, so many scientists that will attest to this and will agree to this. So I think it's very important and very valuable for anyone to know this. I think that it helps you in life, as a person, because it gathers your thoughts completely. If you know pretty much, where everything starts from, it's a different perspective in terms of how you talk and just how you deal with things. It's really good to know where everything starts and where everything could finish. That's a good thing.
Principalities dealing with Christianity and especially Catholicism came with the onset of the Greeks, who broke away into the Greek Orthodox Church because they got tired of the lies that were being formed and wanted to continue with some semblance of truth from the Greek society. The last time when the Caucasians told truth. The male cannot reproduce himself, the female can. What does that mean if carried to the furthest extent? It means that if the woman also could decide whether she was going to produce a male or a female, the race of man could cease to exist, as we now understand it, as a double gender. That, at one time on Earth, was a tremendous problem. The universal cosmic age theorem is that a cosmic egg was created, and from that generated everything, and that in the egg still is the semblance of first creation. Things start from an egg, whether it be a hard shell finish or a little ovum attached to the uterine wall. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? In 1975, they connected a vibrational detecting device to an unfertilized egg, and they got a rhythmic pulsing beat just like that of a human heart or pulse. What is generally an unfertilized egg? Somebody kind of share with me quickly from the audience. What's the difference between an unfertilized egg and a fertilized egg?
That's a good question. I wouldn't even know that.
No males around. Yet they have detected, and that experiment has been tried and tried again, some kind of rhythm or pulse within that egg itself. They also found in vertebrates, those that have a central vertebral column again, a spine, if you would, that on the phases and oscillations of the moon, that pulse varied, but was always even more intense. We understand that humans are the dominant species on this planet Earth. We are the masters, we are the greatest, and everything else is beneath us, right? Right, yeah, right. The acorn, which has a seed, a phylum of vegetable and plant, contains everything in it that the seed needs to become a mighty oak, including a print on its phloem showing what it's going to look out when it matures, what it's going to look like. Is that interesting? Ever cut an acorn in part and look at it? I mean, some of these mutated acorns now that have been gassed and pre-picked, you can't tell anything from. But get the real seed of a pure bone acorn, and what do you have when you cut it in half? Picture of a tree. I mean, that's somebody really blueprinted that one. They already said, this is what you're going to look like when you grow up. And that's just on a little acorn. Okay? Let's go to another phylum, an animated phylum, the silk moth. The silk moth reproduces and never mates. Reproduces without a mate.
Wow.
The lowly aphid reproduces without a mate.
Wow.
And as the ancient Egyptians tried to point out, the scarabus beetle, reproduces without a mate and can shed its skin and goes along every 7 years quite well. It dies when it does mate. And if you remember, on the Ankh and the scarabus, you found in your Valley of the Kings, and you found again amongst the pyramid and on the Sphinx itself, that sacred symbol of the scarabus. They were trying to convey something. Most of us have forgotten or never knew what they were trying to convey. Dr. Edward Bischoff, MD, started this modern theory of epigenesis in 1854. I want you to jot down that date because people think this has been going along for a long time. It has not. That's close to the turn of the century. Dr. Edward Bischoff started the theory and the story of epigenesis in 1854. That is, that the zygote and the uterine development by union of sperm and egg was the way that humans get started. The first trimester after fetal conception. Before Bischoff's theory became accepted, and understand, it was presented on a paper as a theory, not an accepted fact. Later on, males and those who study under males have made it a fact that this is the way pregnancy starts. For centuries, people before that had believed in the theory of parthenogenesis. I repeat, parthenogenesis, and they even created under Grecian society, which had adopted and stole from the ancient Nubian society, the Parthenon. The idea for the Parthenon was not Greek. The idea that a temple toward bringing in gods was already being utilized on earth, and parthenogenesis, or virgin birth, was acceptable and was the more immaculate, wonderful way. All of your ancient gods, so-called, or avatars or presentors were said to have been of what? Virgin birth. Now we laugh at that. We lose so much in the vaginal uterine tract conceptory and bringing to term trimesters that there must be a better way. We have just forgotten that there was another way. In the year 1955, 4 prominent British doctors of medicine, and I like to use this amongst college students because when you say British doctors of medicine, then it makes it okay.
I love his sarcasm. Like, he has like real top-notch sarcasm. And this is the sarcasm that I knew I naturally had, like, from day one. I just knew, like, not that I knew I was 8 times smarter than anyone, but I just felt like a lot of people think they are smart, and those are the people that I naturally be sarcastic at, because I am intelligent. I'm not smart. Intelligence and smarts is 2 different things. You'll learn that gradually in life, but I'm intelligent, and I knew that in a sense I wasn't that smart. So like people that thought they were like extra smarty and shit like that, I will always check them type shit. I see it to just be so funny. Cause like you'd be surprised like what people think they know and they actually don't know. Like you think you know it, but you actually don't know it. You're just speaking about it because you can make a joke about it, or you feel whatever about it. It's life is a funny thing. It really is.
Dr. Stanley Balfour Lynn, Dr. Bernard Camber, Dr. David Wine Williams, and Dr. A.E. Morant all studied some 10 classical cases of virgin births and agreed that all 10 of them were real, that in some way parthenogenesis, bringing to birth without the unit of sperm and egg, had occurred in all 10 of those cases, barring nothing. The most famous or classical case of virgin birth was by Mrs. Emma Marie Jones, a German woman who during the height of the war, World War II, 1944, had been locked in her castle, a big estate, because it had been bombed, and everybody thought that everybody inside had been killed. And so for 17 months, she stayed in there. She was not pregnant when she went in. When she came out, she was 9 months pregnant. There had been no men in there. There is another theory, the August theory. The August theory, pronounced August, again, was named after the Roman.
I'm not gonna lie, that story did sound a little crazy. I ain't gonna hold you. When you sit down and just listen to that story for what it is, but I'm gonna give it like 2 or 3 more minutes. But that story did sound a little like I don't know, but that story was incredible, I guess.
Poet and writer, again, of lovemaking and metaphors, and so Publius Ovidius Naso. By the way, I use him because he was a black man. Don't misunderstand. You cannot go to a so-called race of people and state whether or not, if they came from a certain country, they were black or white. All Romans were not white. In fact, most Italians now are mixed bloods. This theory was proven by Imhotep. This theory was revitalized by Pythagoras, again about 2500 BC. It was scientifically demonstrated again by the American biologist, Professor Jacques Loeb, Stanford, in the 40s. And utilizing artificial parthenogenesis in biological labs, this doctor once again proved the old August theory was true, that the embryo develops from the egg alone and does not necessarily require spermatozoon, and that is the correct way. Here is the key. Hear it carefully. I usually speak pretty slowly when I'm giving lectures that are empathic. Please hear what I'm saying and not what I didn't say. Varied forms of energy in the forms of radiation from any source, and including radiation from both the sun and the moon or other heavenly bodies, can produce hormonal chemical energies that will induce in the female zygote, when prime, development of a female cell that will initially divide itself and proliferate through terms. And any developing fetus therein will reach term, no matter what that term is. In other words, vibrations and radiation can start mitosis, division of the egg cell. That's the only reason that the sperm can also do that. It is not the sperm penetrating the egg that does it, releasing its DNA, Y chromosomes. It is the vibration of that sperm, because as you realize and you've read, literally millions to billions of sperm cells die out and never make the grail. What they do is to simply die out because their mobility, their energy level, their vibrational rate is not strong enough to excite the ovum or the egg. The one that does make it, after that, everything is over. Look how many it takes to do one act. Consequently, it is understood that it is the vibrational rate, the amount of energy or radiation that causes that, and the sperm cell is only one possible conductor of such energy.
On that note, we're wrapping it all up. Wonderful. Wow. That's magical. The way he broke that down, you might have to go replay that maybe 3, 4 times, maybe even 5, just to be straight up honest with you. But what I would say is that it's a blessing, having knowledge and having information, education. Well, I don't really pride myself on education, but information and knowledge is two things that you definitely need. Information and knowledge is, if not one of the most important, virtues you can probably have in your life. Seriously. Um, wow. What a lecture. Thank you, Dr. Delbert Blair. Wow. That was wonderful. We're gonna wrap this up. I didn't even know I hit uh 52 minutes. What's that damn sound? Sound like somebody was in there just now. But anyway, thank you so much. Lasted 52 minutes. But wonderful lecture, definitely a wonderful lecture. Thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, I appreciate you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much. See you soon.